Hello, hello! You are listening to CPA Career Path Podcast with Rosie Flaherty, CPA MSA. This is episode number 30. We continue the conversation with Lindsay, CPA CGMA, the Chief Transformation Officer at BPM. After you moved to audit, you mentioned that you want to go with your adventure to finance, working at the first financial bank in USA. Why you move from tax to audit, public to private?
Yeah, part of that was a little bit of burnout. Like I mentioned, I felt like the profession needed to focus on some of these other things beyond compliance, right? So the business model and personnel and transformation and innovation, and there at the time the firms that I went to weren't interested in doing that. And so I kind of put my hands up and went, fine, public accounting isn't ready for me. So I'm just going to go to business and industry and see what I can do there. And which worked out great. I had an incredible experience in finance at the bank. I was tax focused. So it was fun because I got to use some of my tax skills. I did our provision, probably not well the first year I was there, but I figured it out. So if any of my former colleagues are watching this, we're good. We got it figured out. But it was a really great time. I also happened to be there when PPP happened during COVID. So if you're not in the business world, PPP is the public funding that the government made available for small businesses. And it was a really exciting time for me because all of my public accounting CPA friends were trying to help their business clients figure out how to be eligible, what you would need, how to communicate with the banks. And I worked at a bank. And so I got the pleasure of developing and running our PPP program. So it's a credit card bank primarily. That's where I was. We have a very small community bank practice. And so we came together, we talked to the CEO, to general counsel, to our branch manager. And I was like, I really think that we can do this. Like we can do this and we could put money into the community and it would be amazing for us as a team. And they were all like, yeah, but we don't know the rules. And I was like, okay, I'll figure out the rules and we'll work together to come up with a strategy and we're going to lend this money out. Well, because of all my CPA connections and the amazing people in the accounting profession, we had this network going on behind the scenes. And I'll get into who that network is in a minute because I do want to share that. But we had this network happening that was on Slack all day, every day, just nothing but PPP discussion. And we would say, like, how is your firm doing this? How is the bank looking at this? What did you hear from SBA? What did you hear from FDIC? And we had this great communication going so that by the time we got done, all of those firms that were represented in that group of people and our bank were able to serve small business clients in an incredibly impactful way. And our bank, whose loan portfolio was probably around, I don't know, $5 or $6 million in the community bank lending profile, we actually ended up lending out 5 or 6 million in PPP lending. So we had almost doubled our portfolio just through PPP, which was cool. Like that was just such a cool thing to be a part of. So while it wasn't ever my intention to go into business and industry, and I was in tax and finance, and that was like my focus, my role, I got the opportunity to do something really creative and really meaningful. And that was super cool. It was really cool to be a part of that.
I feel like accounting to you is not just about numbers. It's not just about getting the jobs done. It's about how you impact people's life. Is that correct?
Oh my gosh. Spot on, Rosie.
That's amazing. We need more people like you. And we just have more care about human interaction as well. When AI can just jump in anytime, any point to just take so much work from us. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing that AI comes in and then just help us all the low task assignments. It's super helpful. But what do you think about AI? What do you think about this profession with AI support at this time?
So I love AI. I'm a huge fan of any tools that we can leverage in order for us to expand our focus on cognitive load. So in our firm, we're working on some AI tools. We're leveraging AI in the way that we do work. And we've had a lot of conversations around how do we frame this? What does this mean to us? What should we be talking about from a profession standpoint? And I think my biggest thing with AI is, we've been through this before. It just wasn't called AI. It was called Excel. And the entire profession almost lost their minds that this new, electronic calculator was going to put us all out of business because it was going to do all these calculations in seconds that would take us weeks to figure out and do by hand and recheck and contribute. The same thing happened when we went to digital tax software. Oh my gosh, what are our people going to work on? We're not going to need any new CPAs. The pipeline's too large and the work is too small. We're never going to have enough for them to do. And at every iteration of that, what we've discovered as a profession is that where we add value and where we have impact is at the highest cognitive functional level. So tools like AI that allow us to redirect our energies on that cognitive value delivery is so awesome. Like I love the idea that I can take things that are, I had to Google this, I had to put together an email for a client, I had to figure out what our planning strategy was going to be, all these things that are like not cognitively difficult, but very time consuming. And instead I can offload those and I can spend my time dreaming up how else we can impact the profession and change the business model and meet our colleagues where they are and get rid of charge hours and all the things that I think are fun and want to spend time on. Now I have the opportunity to do that even more because I can offload the things that are not really good uses of my time and don't add value for anyone, right? Like my client, who is in the internal firm now, they don't care if it took me 50 hours or 10 hours or 1 hour. What they care about is that when I delivered it, it meets the needs and outcomes and desires that they made very clear at the front end of that discussion. So the more time I can spend on connecting those dots, the more value I add. And it doesn't matter if ChatGTP gave me 5 opportunities to consider and I chose 3 of them, retooled them to make sense with what's important to my client, and then I delivered that, right? Like that's okay. That doesn't mean that like because it took me less time that it wasn't more value. It's actually more valuable. I spent more time on the things that mattered to them. And so I love AI. I'm a huge proponent. I don't think that's going to take jobs. I actually think it's going to elevate jobs. I think that people that are choosing accounting as a profession as high schoolers and college students are going to find that they add more value and have more impact on day one than they've ever had the opportunity to have. And that's super exciting to me. I mean, purpose on day one as a brand new person in an accounting firm or, at an organization. I mean, when has that ever been something that was potentially real? Right? Having an impact on day one, that's cool. That is super cool. So I love AI. That was a long-winded response to that, but
That's a perfect response. I love it. You mentioned about impact profession. Is that why you love volunteering for the state society as well as AICPA?
yeah, I mean, so volunteering is a tough thing, right? Because accounting, especially in your early years, is really demanding. And that's just because the technical upskilling takes time. It's just truth, right? There's so much happening, whether you're in tax or assurance or consulting or you're in business and industry or your government, no matter what component, you work in, the regulatory environment, the client needs, those are all always constantly pulling on you. So from a professional technical standpoint, it's just a heavy load when you're first entering the profession, and that's okay. I will say that volunteering adds that component of like really feeling like it matters because you get to see what everyone else in the profession is doing and you get to hear all the things that are happening and you get to feel like some of the decisions that you make or the ways that you contribute actually matter in a much bigger environment than just your small team or firm or organization. You see it on a grander scale. So I think while I love to volunteer because it is fun, I also feel like my career is so much better because I volunteer, because I've learned so much in those roles. I mean, it's amazing. I am a better human because of the time I've spent volunteering, because of the other people that were involved.
Can you share with our audience your volunteer positions right now?
Ooh, I can. I need to think. So at the state level, I am on, well, it maybe just changed, but I have historically been on the non-practice advisory council. So in South Dakota for our state society, that means people who are not practicing in compliance, essentially. That was more of a carryover from my banking days. I think I still participate in that because I'm not client facing here. So still kind of similar. At the AICPA level, I am a member of the AICPA and Association Board, and I am a member of SEMA Council. So if you know nothing about the accounting profession, the AICPA and Association is our governing body. It's our association that we're all members of in order to practice here, especially as it relates to assurance. And then SEMA, we joined with a few years ago, and that's an international body that also regulates management accountants. So people who are more in the B&I space. So I serve in both of those capacities. I just started on a national pipeline advisory group through the AICPA. So really talking about all of you and how we attract you to the profession and retain you to the profession. So that's relevant and exciting. And then I'm on a number of committees or I don't know what's task force that plan conferences. So where I met you, Rosie, AICPA Engage, I'm an Engage co-chair with 4 other amazing people from the profession. So I help plan that conference every year. And then I am on the Women's Initiatives, we call it Women's Global Leadership Summit through the AICPA, that conference that happens in November. I'm on that planning committee. And then I'm at the chair of the Digital CPA Advisory Board, and they plan the DCPA conference that happens in December. I think that's most of them.
That's a lot.
I have a no problem if that hasn't become apparent. I'm not very good at saying no, so I'm working on it.
You even having a 10 years boy right now, right?
Yeah.
How can you find time to do work and then all of that volunteer hours and then have a little boy 10 years old next to you?
I think a lot of it comes down to just prioritization. Rosie, just every day, you just kind of have to take a look at what's going on and say, okay, what's the most important, highest priority? And that's what gets your attention. And then the next day, highest priority. It doesn't always work. There are definitely some times where it's a little difficult or something falls through the cracks, but I'm human, so that's going to happen no matter what I do. And yeah, for the most part, I have an amazing husband, if I haven't shared that yet. And he is a super dad and a super husband, and he manages our whole lives when I'm on the road, which it has been quite often this summer. So that obviously helps, being able to have that support at home. And, my 10-year-old is getting more self-sufficient and doing his own thing, right? He's often, half the time, I get a text from a mom, your kid's in my basement. Okay. I didn't know he was over there. So him becoming more self-sufficient is part of that too. But yeah, I think the prioritization thing is really the biggest deal, because there's always stuff. Everything is always happening, and you can only get through what you can get through, and you have to prioritize what has the biggest impact, most value, and put your energy there. And I'm trying to get better at saying no. I'm not great at it. Some things I have said no this year, so that I'm getting better, but definitely still on the journey.
I'm not surprised why you received so many awards and honors. Let me just list some of them. You are one of 25 most powerful women in accounting in 2 years, in 2018 and 2019. And you also are 40 under 40 and multiple years. And hey, you also outstanding young CPA award as well. Just the same one that I got in June. And we also AICPA Leadership Academy grad. So yes, thank you for all your work, and then also you definitely deserve all these honors and awards. That's just amazing for all the work you have done.
I have to say there's definitely been work there, but the reality is that those acknowledgments and recognition, those all are a result of a lot of people contributing to all of the efforts that I've been a part of, and they definitely were not accomplished on my own. So it's I don't take recognition well, but I am grateful and humbled by it, and recognize that I would not be who I am or how I show up without all of the amazing people that are in my life, both professionally and personally. So it's not alone. They're not mine to own. They're definitely shared with my colleagues and my family. So
Have been in these accounting professions for so many years. What do you think the main characteristics that young people need to succeed in this career?
I think the first and most important is crafting your definition of success. I think what happens in the accounting profession is historically, it used to be that there was sort of this mold, and you had to follow the mold, and that's how you would become what they term successful. And now things are shifting. So if you're thinking about this profession, really think about what it means for you to be successful, and then start asking for help to map that journey. The beautiful thing about the CPA profession is that it's old. So there's a lot of people in it, and there's a lot of people that have taken a lot of different routes. So you can always find someone that's done something similar to what you're interested in, and they can help you navigate those waterways, as you're coming through. So I think that's probably the number one thing I would think of, like what they need to know about coming in the profession. The other thing is things are always changing. It's not just the accounting profession, it's every profession. Anything that you're going to choose as you're trying to figure out what to do with your life, just recognize that being really growth mindset focused, that things are going to change, that you can be agile, that you're going to be able to learn as you go. That's part of the process. If you come in with that mindset, it makes the change feel less awful. And I'm not going to say feel good, right? Because change is hard by itself if you believe all the hype word on the street. But you've been changing your whole life, right? I mean, up until the point you went to college. I mean, that in and of itself, think of how much has changed for you from the time you were 10 years old to the time that you're graduating from college. It will be the same for you when you go into the profession. So just being open to that and recognizing that it's the same as it's always been. Change all the time.
Changes all the time. Even today and tomorrow, there's a change. Not just talking about years. So those tips are really good for young CPAs or young accountants. But as being a mom as well, and as being a CPA, can you provide some tips for moms who are struggling to be a mom and also struggling to be a CPA at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, the best advice is don't take anyone's advice. Everyone has everyone has good intentions, but they're not you, and they're not living your life. So, no, I mean that's said tongue in cheek, but I think for any mom that is also a CPA, your kids are number one priority. Your family, your husband, your partner, whatever that family structure is. At the end of the day, they're your center, and work will come and go, and no one is going to die, and no one is going to lose a limb based on work, or at least the work in the true accounting profession. If you really are doing accounting, no one is going to lose their life as a result of what you're working on. And so really keeping that family focus. And I have not done that well in some parts of my life, and other times I've done it really well. And so it's I think just trying to keep that in the forefront of you can design the career and the opportunities that matter to you, and also be a mom. You may not be able to follow the path of someone else who didn't have the same structure at home that you do, and that's okay. I mean, it just has to be something that you're thinking about, of what feels right for you, and that's what you should go after, and you don't need to worry about what anyone else is doing.
That's difficult to not worry about anyone else. thoughts or anyone else's opinions. That's very difficult. Even not being a mom, just being a normal human being, that's tough.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a balance, right? I mean, it does matter what your boss thinks of your performance. I think that does matter. But I think just the success piece of that, I think we put so much pressure on young CPAs to become a partner or become a CFO or become this or become that. And the reality is, like, there's so many opportunities, and you get to define what feels right and successful for you. And I believe the profession is shifting to support all of that, where you have leaders that say, you know what, Rosie, if you don't want to be a partner, what do you want to be? And you may say, well, I want to be the director of innovation. And they say, cool. How can we make that a possibility for you? And what do you want to do in order to create that for yourself? That's a totally different mindset than coming in and saying, okay, well, if I'm an accountant, I have to be a partner. If I start in a CPA firm, I better make partner. Maybe partner doesn't feel good to you. Maybe you don't want to own the firm. Maybe you want to do something different within the firm. You should be able to, like, take that opportunity to say, that's okay. Let's have those conversations, because the leaders in today's accounting profession are willing and ready to hear those things from you, which is exciting.
I agree. It is exciting to just figure out what you really want inside and then to make it happen. Sometimes it's struggling to everyone. Even you just start your career or you have been in the career for many years, you still try to figure out what you really want to do for your life.
Yeah, I mean, I ask myself every day, what do I want to do when I grow up? I don't know. If you would have asked me 8 years ago what I would be doing now, I don't think my answer would have been what I'm doing now, because what I thought 8 years ago, I mean, I could have never imagined that this is where the journey would take me. So, but that's part of the fun and the joy. It is that you just wake up one morning and go, huh, look at where I got. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, when I look at your experience, I'm very surprised that you are the founder and CEO of the Origin Evolution. That's something you always passionate to do, and then you give it up, and then you work at BPM and become a Chief Transformation Officer. I feel like if you are a founder of something, it's probably your baby. So for you, it's probably your fourth baby besides your three sons.
That's probably true.
That's tough. That's tough to stop it and then now go and work full time for another company. Was that very difficult for you to make that decision, and how that impacts your life?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the pivotal moment when we were talking earlier of the failure, get back up and keep moving. That was it. I really thought that my calling was to do consulting and have my own practice, and then COVID hit and I was home a lot more than I had ever been. And I found that I really liked spending time with my family. Not that I didn't like it before, but I really was there for the moments that you really can't plan, right? The unplanned moments. And so I really, that rocked me, because I was ready to go and just do consulting full time, but I knew I'd have to travel a lot more than I was. And I said, I'm not really willing to do that now, which is crazy, right? My whole life up to that point had been planned to, like, you're going to be a consultant and you're going to go do these stuff. Oh my gosh, now I don't want to do it. I've ruined my whole life. I've worked toward all this for nothing. That was really like where I was at that point in time. What I have realized since then, right? Hindsight is 2020, is that really when we get to those kind of crossroads, those decision points of where we're not sure how we're going to move forward because it feels like the way forward we planned on doesn't feel good anymore, is really just staying focused on the what does feel good. And what felt good was that type of work, trying to be focused on how can we move the needle in some crazy direction? How can we completely shift from the old way of doing things? How can we be creative? How can we have that opportunity to really think strategically? I get to do all those things in this role, and I can choose how much or how little I travel. So I don't have to travel, but I can still travel. So there's a ton of opportunity and flexibility, which when I figured that out, it was like, oh, duh, that's totally where I should be. that makes total sense. That aligns with everything that matters to me. So it's really just giving yourself that space to have that moment where you're like, oh, duh, like that's exactly where I was supposed to end up. Like, even though 5 months before that, I would have been like, I'm failing, I'm a failure, I can't do anything right, I'm losing my whole life because this is exactly what I plan to do. Um, yeah, so those moments are kind of when you look back at them, those fun moments where you go, wow, I can't believe I was crying over that because I'm so happy now. I feel so comfortable and confident in my role. Like, I can't believe I wasn't gonna go that route. I was gonna be over there doing that. So it's kind of unique, but really fun.
It sounds unique and fun too for me, based on just what you share with me. A lot of people come to me and ask me, they are curious about what a typical day of a CPA. Can you share with me what a typical day of a CPA mom?
uh, I'm not sure. It's probably not typical for a CPA or a CPA mom, because I'm not doing accounting work anymore, just in the accounting profession. But I think, a typical day for me right now is meetings. We have a lot of meetings. So I'm involved in our business combination efforts here at the firm. So anytime that we're talking with another firm so that we can combine efforts and become one, I'm very involved in that process, very involved in any kind of transition process. So if we're going to change a large process, if we're going to implement a new strategy, the PMO, our project management office is on my team as well. And so any projects that come through them, I'm usually at least tertiary involved, kind of trying to figure that out. So a day in my life is a little controlled chaos, uh, but usually involves a lot of meetings, and a lot of strategy sessions and some minor amount of like actual work that I feel like I'm getting something done and producing something, but a little different than my previous life as a typical CPA, we'll say.
Yeah, we touch a lot of different things about the CPA as long as accounting profession. And you did also mention a lot of good things about being a CPA and how rewarding the CPA license gives you. I'm just curious if you can just sum up to a few 1, 2, 3 main points that you think the best things about being a CPA and the most challenging things about being a CPA.
Whew, okay, so best thing, like number one thing is credibility. I feel like the CPA designation is almost like an immediate trust factor for most people, even outside the profession. Having those 3 letters after your name seems like an all access pass to have a little bit of a more trusted conversation. So that's number one for me. Number two is flexibility. Again, I think that it is seen as a broad breadth of knowledge if you have your CPA, and that allows you to get access to other opportunities that a non-CPA might not get access to. Like creating your own job description, right? Like I firmly believe that is related to having the designation of CPA. And I think the third best thing about being a CPA is the network. So you mentioned Leadership Academy earlier, and I am a 2015 Leadership Academy grad, and I absolutely adore that network. I spend a ton of time with those peeps. They're amazing. They have made my life and my career better, and I would not have met them if I was not a CPA. And so that, to me, like that relationship group, super important to me. Challenging. It's hard to become one. Obviously, I shared with you, I don't know, it took me 4 years to get the license. So, it's hard to get it. I think there's a value proposition there, but it's hard to get it. Is a challenge. I think the other challenge, now that I am not in compliance, it is challenging for me to keep my CPA. So for those of you that don't have your CPA or haven't looked into it yet, every state has its own requirements, but there's a certain number of hours of continuing education that you have to take every year in order to maintain your license. It's the hours of education is not my problem, but remembering to scan my badge in and out of these sessions is my problem. So I will go to a conference, and I've been in probably almost every session. And I leave the conference and I have no hours of credit because I forgot to scan my badge. Because again, it's not like top of mind for me because when I was compliance driven, CPA was like driven home, right? They're like, get your continuing ed, get your continuing ed, get your continuing ed. Now that I'm not in compliance, my continuing ed is my choice and I choose which sessions I really just want to know more about. And so it becomes the learning and development piece is so much more of a focus that I forget about the compliance piece. So that's probably the second most challenging thing about my CPA is making sure that I track my hours so I can get my renewal done, which is due by the end of this month. So that's why it's top of mind for me. And the third thing that I think is challenging about your CPA is just the assumptions that are made. I think, Rosie, you might know this because you were in audit and then switched to tax, and before that you were in B&I. But it's assumed that CPA means tax. So you have like a million people that ask you a million tax questions, and you may or may not practice tax. And then when you're like, well, I'm not sure, I don't know, they think that you're not really a CPA because that's what they associate being a CPA with. So that's probably the third most challenging thing is sort of the brand around CPA, I think is still probably pretty tax heavy.
That's so true. I think that's probably the reason why I want to try to move to tax. Because
So
when I was in audit, yes, exactly. My friends, my family members, they all come to me and then ask me about tax, ask me about anything related to tax. And they came to me and say like, I thought you are a CPA. I said, yes, but I'm doing audit. And I said, oh yeah, but you should know tax too.
Well, now you do. So
yeah,
now you can answer
now
other
I
questions all the time.
Yes. So now I can answer their questions. Oh, that's just so crazy when I was doing audit. But that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing with us about those best thing about CPAs and also like challenging things about CPA. I think it's just funny when you share about the CPA renewal because I think you are the only one person who have brought it up.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm probably the only person that doesn't just have like, it's just built into my life because all of our professional staff that is client facing, they take so much CPE, they have like more than enough, right? Like even if they didn't scan into stuff, they have like hundreds of hours of training. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to scan in, or oh my gosh, I don't know why I didn't write that down. Like, where was I at? I didn't get my certificate. I mean, I'm just, yeah, you become
That's
less
so
focused
funny.
on that.
But I'm so glad that we can see another aspect of being a CPA. You went through all different areas. You did do tax, you did do audit, you did do public and private, and now you focus on something is not tax or audit at all. It's just something very different. And so people can have a chance to understand that being a CPA is not just on items that people think that you can fit on only. You can do a lot of different things.
Yeah. I mean, I think the coolest thing about the accounting profession is the fact that you, Rosie, and your role are actually changing the lives of your clients, right? Like they are making better, cooler, more innovative decisions because you are able to provide them with the insights that allow them to do that. And to me, I just feel like sometimes that gets lost in translation. We talk about accounting like it's all these numbers and we're managing, and yes, that's the function part of it, that's the how part of it. But what you actually do for people in your role and in your previous roles as an auditor and when you were in B&I, you were making life easier for people that don't get accounting. You were making the world make sense for them from a numbers perspective. And like, that is so cool. Like not very many people have that superpower. So I just think it's so cool to even have this chance to just talk about accounting because it's a superpower, right? It's a learned one, but it's a superpower because not very many people have it. And you're making a difference, which is, I mean, that's the whole point, right?
Yeah, I like how you say make it different. I like how you keep saying that you want to make a wave in this profession. You want to make a change in this profession. It just means a lot to this accounting profession that we need more people like you to make this better. And
there's a
one
lot
more
of them.
thing,
Look at you. You're running this podcast. You're doing this YouTube channel. Like you are doing that, which is so cool. That's why I had to say yes. It's so exciting.
Thank you, thank you. And we talk a lot about accounting. Now I'm just curious because you are a CPA and you're a mom. Are you preparing your sons to be a CPA in the future as well? Are
Oh no,
you
they're wrecked. They're wrecked, Rosie. So this goes back to like the fails that I've had in my professional career. I worked a lot when my older boys were little. I worked too much when my older boys were little. So their perspective of accounting is not healthy, which is 100% on me. That was my choice. It was not the profession. That was my choices. So I don't think I'll ever get them excited about accounting. I will say that my middle son, he's a chef. He wants to do the chef thing. He wants to go to culinary school, but he also is very interested in finance. So he's not quite to accounting, but we're close, and I'm going to take that as a win. And now my 10-year-old, I don't know, he's still pretty young. I think he's still in the I'm going to be an NHL player or an NBA player, MLB, or he wants to be on like 7 sports and be professional in all of them. So who knows where he'll end up. But I don't know if I'll get any of them into the CPA pipeline. I wish I could.
well, you try to recruit all the students to be a CPA and you have 3 little ones in your house.
I know. Listen, I'm telling you guys, I messed up when they were younger. I will fully own that. I ruined it for them. And my 10-year-old is like a sports freak. So I'm hoping that at some point when he gets a little bit older, I can demonstrate how many cool opportunities there are in the sports world around accounting. I think I can win him over, but he's too young yet, right? Like
He's just
accounting
10.
still does not, yeah, he doesn't, I can't like put up any stats about accounting like, they can for the NHL. So
Wow, but you never know. There are a lot of opportunities for him to change from 10 to 21. You have,
that's what
you
I hope.
have, yeah, yeah, you have a lot of years to go to see it.
Well, I will share this with you. So BPM, there's a young man who is he is a professional goalie. So he plays. I don't remember the level, but he's a paid hockey player, and he wants to continue pursuing goaltending and playing in professional hockey as long as he can. But he is also an accountant and a CPA. And so we brought him onto the team, and he works for us on a flex schedule around his hockey life so that he can still be a professional hockey player and take that as far as he can take it, and also still develop his other career, which is in accounting and being a CPA. So I'm hoping that he'll be like the trailblazer for my son, who is a hockey goalie, to be like, oh, this is so cool. I can be a goalie and I can be an accountant. So
Oh,
maybe we'll pave that way for him.
or maybe you can connect those two boys together, and then they just talk, and then your boy will change his mind.
I'm hoping he can win him over.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for the interview today. You touched on a lot of different aspects of being a CPA and also being a mom as well at the same time. And it's very, very challenging. And I'm very glad that you shared with us a lot of different, I would say, like different turns in your life. That you are still being so successful CPA and successful mom at this point as well. So thank you so much for the interview today again.
Well, thank you for your kind words, Rosie, and thank you for inviting me, and I cannot wait to watch all of your shows. You have some really amazing guests that I know that you've asked and have said yes, so I'm really excited to see all your shows coming out.